So as we continue this example, we look at Learning Project Part B. And we're going to start at the top, and we're going to make sure we fill in our name. And so here we have Amy OK, and we've typed that in. And here is a list of the clients from the previous example. Now you'll notice that the clients are repeated. Here's Joan Fredericks and Associates, and here's Joan Fredericks and Associates. And each time Joan Fredericks and Associates has, I don't know, done a tax return or I don't know, poured a concrete block, whatever she's done, each time you've done work for that client, you've entered in the number of hours that you worked for that client and the amount that you charged them. So you want to understand what is the trend in this. And really maybe you're checking for consistency here to make sure that as one variable goes up, the hours per contract, that the dollars are consistently going up also. Now, this is two variables, and so I'm going to select both columns. You're saying, why not the clients? Well, because the clients are not going to be in the graph, just these two variables. The pie graph, in contrast, was one variable. So we're going to click on Insert. We're going to go to Scatter, because the scatter of all these graphs, the scatter is going to let us plot two variables. One of our variables will be on one axis and one on the other. I use the first one, and voila, we have a graph. Now this is not a professionally finished graph. We're not going to hand this to our boss because we understand that this is the dollar amount of our contract and that this is the contract, is the contract hours. I pointed backwards. This is the dollars and these are the contract hours, right? But we need labels. We need labels because otherwise what is Series 1? Nobody understands what that is. We need to apply some kind of titles and labels to this. So with the chart selected, I look at my chart layouts. I have a lot of different options for laying them out. I like to use the first one. Simple as best. Once I choose Layout 1, I can apply a chart title. It's got a spot for me here. If you triple click, it will select all the text, and then I'll just type in there, how about contract hours versus amounts. It's descriptive, the capitalization of each important word. Okay, I also need to label my axis. Down here at the bottom, I've triple clicked. This is the contract hours. I'm going to triple click this title, and this is contract amounts. I might even put something like in dollars. Not millions of dollars. I'm a small business. Some small businesses make big bucks, but not ours. Okay, now, so far so good, except we were asked to create a scatter plot with trend line. So, to apply the trend line, I'm going to click on the Layout tab. I'm going to find the Trend Line button. The first button says to remove a trend line. We don't want to do that. We want one, and we're going to use a linear trend line. Now, what a trend line does is it's a best fit of a straight line between your data points. Now, you'll notice that not all the data points are on the line, and in fact, in most cases, many of the data points are not on the line. My data has been kind of manipulated, so they work out this way. Now, as I look at this trend line, it tells me something very important. It tells me that as the number of hours worked increases, as the line goes up, and the dollar amounts also increase. We'll talk about this much later in the semester, but this is a positive relationship because the line goes up. Now, if our line had a negative slope, in other words, if it started from a high value and went down this way to another high value, we would say that the negative slope that indicates a negative relationship between the two variables. Now, the two variables don't always have a relationship. Sometimes the dots are just scattered about and you end up with a horizontal line, and there's just no relationship that can be found. So part of this scatter plot is to understand what is the relationship. Now, here we have a pretty good relationship. Some of the dots are not on the line, and that's okay. Okay, that's okay. And we're going to talk more about that in just a minute. They don't have to exactly intersect the line. But as we continue this learning project, it says, is the relationship between, it says days per contract, it should be hours per contract, and contract amounts positive, negative, or neutral. Well, we said the line slopes up as the number of hours increases, the price increases, and that is a positive relationship. So how many data points are so far away from the trend line that you find the points to be outside the norm? Well, the norm is this line, but just because you're off of the line doesn't mean that, it's totally a ludicrous thing, okay? Maybe, this was a rush job, something like that, and we had to do something. Maybe we gave these folks a discount. Maybe we screwed up one project and gave them a discount on the next one, right? Okay, it doesn't necessarily mean that these are invalid data points, but so these could be completely normal data points. But let's change that up a little bit. Maybe for one of my data points, maybe the price was not $800. Now, you're not going to do this part, but this is part of our discussion. Maybe it was $2,000, right? See how far this one, this one is clearly not in the same grouping as these other data points, okay? So, I don't know, maybe we have another one that's maybe for 4 hours, we only charge these people $100. This is also, starting to get kind of far away from the grouping, okay? So, if I had points outside like this, then I would count those 2 points and say I have 2 that seem to be inconsistent with our trend. Okay, now remember, the whole reason we are looking at graphs is not to understand how Excel does graphs. Excel is a tool, okay? But we want to understand data as we look at it, and we want to understand that graphing is one way to display that data. So it says, remember, the reason that you analyze this data is because you must determine a strategy for the future. Based on your graph, are your contracts priced consistently based on, again, this is from your example, obviously, based on hours of service, or is your pricing strategy so unreasonable that some clients will complain, drop you as their vendor, maybe sue you because they can see now that you're giving your bestest buddy all the breaks, right? Okay. You're going to give me an answer based on your data. Now, my data does not look anything like your data. This is a positive trend, but based on my data, my explanation would follow lines of saying, no, I think it's very reasonable, except for these 2 points. Now, 2 out of, I don't know, maybe I have how many data points do I have here? It looks like about 20. Not too bad. 10 out of 20 would start to indicate that I had something that was completely unreasonable and unstructured. Okay, so again, there's lots of people in our class, and each person is going to kind of look at this data and have to make their decision. But what you want to decide is your pricing consistent, with the hours worked? Do you seem to be, charging ballpark about the same way, in the same manner? So take a look at that, and if you have questions, again, on this assignment, be sure and get with me.